Hey, everybody, we're back for another edition of the podcast. I'm David Allan. Happy New Year. And our first guest of the new year is somebody very interesting. He's in a niche I know literally nothing about. He's been very successful. He's sort of risen up through the ranks, so to speak, and I've been seeing his fabulous posts on Facebook. I've been hearing about some of his results. We have lots of friends in common. We're sort of in the same circles. So I would love to welcome Nick Carpenter to the show. Hello, Nick.
How's it going? Yeah, thank you so much for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, this is really great. Here we are, brand new year. Wipe the slate clean, or however you want to say that. People tend to make new goals and put new motions into action to try to get everything rolling. Maybe take us back to start like we usually do. We like to go back and see sort of where you came from and how you sort of ended up where you're at now. So take us through that superhero origin story. We want to know what got Nick into treating and serving loan officers.
Yeah, that's such a great question. Yeah, it is definitely an interesting path, of how I got here. But basically, coming out of high school, I came up in a military family. My dad was in the Navy. And so, we always had the stuff that we needed, but it's not like we had a bunch of money or anything like that. I mean, we were living off military salaries. And so when I was getting out of high school, basically my dad told me, well, you either got to figure out how to pay for your college yourself or go in the military. And so I went in the Air Force. At college was really unappealing to me. And so that's what I did. It wasn't necessarily because I was like super patriotic or something, and I felt like it was my duty, although it was awesome coming up in a military family. But I went in the Air Force, served in the Air Force for 6.5 years. And really, I got out in 2005 because I just didn't want to go back to Iraq again. I went to, I'd been to Saudi Arabia twice already. I went to Iraq in 2004, and I just had no desire to go again. We were getting bombed every single day there. And it was a pretty intense place.
Thank you for serving, by the way. I didn't realize you served.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The funny thing about Iraq is like, if we weren't getting attacked every day, it would have been a lot of fun, but
that's an interesting thing to say, though. Like, I've never heard that from somebody.
We had fun, but it was just like I was on a great base, and I was at first I was down in the south. It was called Talil Air Base, and then I moved up north to Balad Air Base, where they really didn't like us, and that's where we were getting literally getting attacked every single day. And so anyways, I got out in 2005. I just pretty much had my fill of that, and I got my real estate license. We had bought a house in North Carolina when I was stationed there, and I just loved the process of that. So much so that I ended up getting my real estate license in Texas. And so I already had my license whenever I got out of the Air Force, and I went to work for a big company in Dallas-Fort Worth called Ebby Halliday Realtors. And so, just like any other realtor, I was just helping people buy and sell houses until 2008. So it was about 3 years that I was just a realtor. And really, it was just through like a bad breakup that my business suffered, and I had to make some changes, so I left the industry for a short time, and then I ended up getting hired by Keller Williams in Southlake, Texas, which at the time it was the number 4 office in the country. And I took on an agent services role there. So I was helping to onboard new agents, and I was training agents in their 443 classes that Keller Williams teaches, and some of these different things. And I ended up getting recruited to go help some agents open a new company. And so I went with them, and we opened a company, and we had about 40 realtors there. And, I was the only person on staff. So I was literally doing all the marketing, all the training, all the paperwork stuff. It was crazy, man. It was really crazy. And like I was getting paid $2,500 a month back then. And I would have to chase the guy down for my checks. I was getting a check every 2 weeks for $1,250, and right. he would be at the golf course or something, and I'd have to like take a blank check to him and go meet him out there in order to get my paycheck. And it was just crazy. And so in 2011, we had our second son, Maxwell. So I was just looking for something different, more stability, more money, all that kind of stuff, more happiness. And I ended up, somebody told me, well, Benchmark Mortgage is looking to create a marketing team at their corporate office. And their office was in Dallas, Texas. So I went and talked to them, and I ended up getting hired by Benchmark, and it was awesome. I got to help them create the whole corporate marketing team at their office, at the corporate office. And, Benchmark was doing when I was there, they were doing around $2 billion a year in home loans. They had 50 something branches around the country. It's a big business, and they just didn't have an in-house marketing team at the corporate office. And so I helped to build that. That was in 2011. And, we hired graphics designers, video editors, web developers, right? Just all the stuff that you would normally think of in terms of creating a marketing team. And so from 2011, through now, I've only worked with loan officers, and that's sort of how I got my stronghold really in the mortgage niche. So around 2014, I love Benchmark as a company, but I just was feeling sort of restricted. And so I just decided to leave, So I left in 2014. It was an awesome 3-year run, left with only great feelings. But, so that's when I opened my agency and started just trying to figure it out on my own, and really just like everybody else probably that goes on their own, it was like so much trial and error, and like just failing forward and trying to figure out who I am and what's my offer and what's my value to people,
That's a big decision to take that step.
Yeah. Especially it's weird, like being from the military. I think a lot of veterans go through this over and over of like trying to figure out what's my value now to the world, and
right.
You're used to just being told what to do every day and getting a paycheck every 2 weeks and having that consistency. And it was weird, like, going through this evolution of being an entrepreneur, then going back and being an employee, and then coming back to entrepreneurship and, trying to figure it out. And, and I was just committed. And so, so basically I opened my agency, and like in 2014, 2015, we were doing everything, right? We were doing Facebook ads, graphics, building websites for people. I was partnering with other people to create offers and, just trying to figure out what I was doing. And I always knew I wanted to have this mastermind program for loan officers. That's really where I felt like was my strongest thing, was to help loan officers be able to get more real estate partners. Because having been a realtor and then having worked with loan officers for so long, I was really good at that. And so,
yeah, you knew what they wanted and what the stumbling points were and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I, even though I had never been a loan officer, I've never had my license for that, but I just been around it and just immersed into it so much that I just get both sides, and I was able to kind of combine them together. And so, I think it was maybe 2016, I tried to create this mastermind the first time, and I called it Mortgage Masterclass. And I sold 2 people into it, and basically that was it. And it was like nobody wanted to buy it. It was the weirdest thing. And it was this big, like bloated program, and right. People just couldn't get their head around it. And like, I was trying to do everything, right? Like Facebook ads, YouTube, this thing, that thing. It was like, and people would hear it and it would overwhelm them and they would just never buy it. And so I ended up changing the name. I changed it to Mortgage Marketing Mastery. That was around the beginning. This was like the end of 2016. Okay. So I got this new name. I'm trying this thing still. It's still all the same training, but I'm just like, maybe it's the name, right? I just know how you constantly trying to figure out, like, why is nobody buying this? It just is, I know the value is here. I just wasn't able to translate that over. So, through some iterations, it became the Legion of Loan Officers. And so that's basically what we have. Thank you. Yeah. I love the name. It feels like something people want to be a part of, which I think is like the other names that I was using before didn't have that. Mortgage Masterclass doesn't sound like something people are proud to be a part of, or Mortgage Marketing Mastery, right? It just sounds like another course. And
the Legion sounds like everyone's raising their hand. We're part of a movement.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like everybody's locked in step with their shields, and and it's like you feel like you're part of something bigger than you. Absolutely. And everybody wants to be a part of something bigger than them, right? It's like why I was in the Boy Scouts growing up, or why people join car clubs, or anything they do, right? Everybody likes to be a part of something. And so it's just been awesome. Like through, the end of 2017 and then really through 2018 is where we just really had our huge growth. So that's sort of been my path, is like just being a realtor, then moving into marketing, and then just wanting to help loan officers understand the mentality of realtors and like what it really takes to get their business besides just paying them for it.
Right.
We're having a cold call. So yeah, that's kind of how I got here.
So when you were building up this agency and you were figuring all this stuff out about what it should be called and, de-bloating perhaps the course materials, so forth, what ways were you trying to find people? Like, were you using Facebook, doing what you were teaching, or were there, more offline, in-person ways? Were you reaching out to your network or meeting people face-to-face? Or how did you start that path? A lot of people are interested in like, okay, I understand where you go from like you have some customers to a lot of customers, but how do I get those first customers?
Yeah. So for me, initially when I was trying to grow, I'll say I was trying to do everything, right? So my main three focuses have always been the same in terms of how to get clients. So the first is using paid Facebook ads, right?
Right.
I've been using Facebook ads myself since 2012. I started teaching Facebook ads in 2013 to loan officers, and so
Right.
I just have a really good grasp on what works and what doesn't work, and so I'm always using that, right? I always want to be a living example of anything that I'm teaching. And so if I'm telling a loan officer, hey, you should be running Facebook ads every day, well, I always want to be doing the same thing I'm telling them to do, So Facebook ads has always been a piece of it. Then another piece has been more so early on, not as much nowadays, but was creating a ton of content on my website. Like in 2017, I was blogging every week and creating, blog articles and using them for SEO pieces and using them for Facebook ads and all that. So just trying to create content to demonstrate my, my knowledge and my value. And then the third piece, even still, I still do this today, is to create YouTube videos. So YouTube is a super underutilized resource for most people creating a business, because they don't realize, like, the great thing about creating YouTube videos is most people on YouTube, they're looking to solve a problem right now. So they're typically searching for answers to a problem. And if you can help somebody solve that problem, well, you've instantly created value for that person. And, if you have some giveaways or you have calls to action in your videos, YouTube is a great resource and it's totally free. Like that's people will be like, well, I don't have any money. What should I be doing? It's like, you should be making YouTube videos every day then. And SEOing the shit out of them and, and just taking advantage of that free traffic, right? Driving traffic there through whatever method you can do that. And, so that's been basically the three ways that I've grown my business for the most part, has been through, a huge piece of it has been through paid Facebook ads, and then some through creating content that just exists out there online. And then also through YouTube videos.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So anyone listening to this, there you go. It's very straightforward. He's focused on these three things. So what percentages would you say? You said most of it, or a large percentage, I shouldn't say most. Large percentage came from Facebook ads. What would be the breakdown in your estimation if you don't really know the actual numbers?
Well, nowadays, I mean, like in 2018, it probably at least is 80 or 85% of people are coming through Facebook ads, or just like through referrals in our network, or typically through Facebook ads, right? I mean, right now I'm spending about $500 a day on Facebook ads.
Okay.
And so, but usually we're turning somewhere like, we're averaging about anywhere from $8 to $12 per dollar that we spend on Facebook ads. So,
Nice.
it's, I mean, and sometimes people will say, well, like, oh, well, if that was true, how come you're not spending $1 million a month? And it was like, man, get out of here with that dumb shit. I mean, we all have a niche and we all have an audience, and like, I would completely blow my audience out if I try to do something dumb like that. Whereas right now, we can spend $500 a day and consistently be turning $100,000 a month, basically through those ads.
Now, when you said you've been running Facebook ads since 2012, is that just something you were like, hey, this is cool, this is the future, I'm going to jump in, and you sort of taught yourself, or did you access other people to get your foot in the door sort of mentally into that game, or how did that work? So
initially, in 2012, I was just learning from different people, sometimes like Carl White, for example, he's one of like these OGs sort of in the mortgage industry, in terms of marketing.
Right.
And so I was, I learned some stuff from him back in the day, and just like I've always participated in masterminds and wanting to learn from other people that are smarter than me. Yeah. And so I've constantly, and what was cool is when I was at Benchmark, I was able to use the corporate money to test things and buy these different products.
Way to learn.
Buy things. Yeah. So it kind of helped me like even speed my learning up, because I didn't have to only rely on my meager income. I was able to just leverage the corporate money also. And then what I did was I went to some loan officers and branch managers that, were at Benchmark Mortgage. And I said, hey, I've got this idea, I think we can make these Facebook ad things work, but I just need some, I need some money. Right. And so I got them to give us, like, some of them gave us only like $250. Some of them gave us $400 or $500 a month, and right. So we ended up with like, I don't know, $1,000 or $1,500 a month that we were able to use to test. And awesome. So
Awesome.
it's just through that, right, where we set a really, really low bar of what they should expect. And then that way we're able to base like test things, so that's how we started figuring out, even still today, some of the campaigns that exist today, both that I use, that a lot of agency owners use, that is being taught in a lot of masterminds right now for agency owners, right, or for mortgage professionals and realtors. We created a lot of those campaigns, back in the 2012, 2013, beginning of 2014, like these same templates and stuff that still perform today,
Right. Fascinating.
So yeah, it's just really a lot through testing, man, early on. And then, just investing in masterminds, today I'm a member of Bobby Stock's ad agency hustle mastermind,
right.
Which is an amazing group. There's like 200 something agency owners in there, and definitely recommend that for anybody that's trying to build an agency. Bobby is a beast at that. And so, definitely recommend his mastermind. And then I also participate in Mitch Miller. He has a secret group that's out there. And so, I'm in his high level mastermind as well. And so just the same thing, right? I'm just constantly trying to learn and level up, and then just bring that to the people that I'm working with.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. It's clearly produced the results you're looking for too. And that is fascinating that it's a lot of the templates are still the same. What do you make of, because I get these questions quite a bit. I don't write a ton of Facebook ads myself, but Facebook is, and some of the other ad networks are trying to more vanilla-ize, I would say, maybe what you can say, how you can phrase things, what offers you're even allowed to run, of course. This has been going on for the last few years. How has that affected your business, if at all?
Yeah, so, for me, being that most of my customers directly are loan officers, and then for most loan officers, they all have real estate agents as partners. And so in general, if you look at the mortgage and real estate industry, mortgages are super unsexy. Right.
Yeah.
Nobody wants a mortgage. At the end of the day, nobody wants that. Right. It's just a part of having a house. So in general, we haven't been affected too much because, being that I created a lot of the ads and the concepts when I had a corporate compliance team that we had to deal with. So we were able to create the ads in a super compliant way where, nice. We've never had a compliance issue, knock on wood, by Facebook or by any mortgage companies, that don't like our ads.
Right.
But what I'll say is, in general, mortgage ads are not nearly as effective or as sexy as real estate ads. Right. So in general, right, we can get way cheaper leads if we run real estate ads versus running mortgage ads, because mortgage is like the afterthought. It's like, oh, I really want that house. Oh man, I got to get a mortgage.
Right.
And instead of trying to pitch the money up front where they're definitely feel like they're being sold something, everybody wants to buy a house, but nobody wants to be sold a mortgage. And so that's sort of my approach to it. Is a lot of times we'll leverage the realtor's listings and, different things that we can do with the realtor to get actual home buyer, real estate leads.
Right.
And then we're working them for the mortgage on the back end.
Gotcha. Now, if there's people out there now, obviously there might be, and probably are people out there who will listen to this who are not in business with you right now. They're loan officers, they're realtors. What are some of the mistakes people are making in your industry, that leads to some of the biggest problems? Because if it's anything, I'm sure copywriting, I get the same problems every day. I'm dealing with basically people making the same type of mistakes. What are those similar mistakes that you're seeing in your industry?
Yeah. So just, two that come to mind right off is, so number one is a lot of loan officers are trying to build their business by cold calling realtors. And typically, there's some big mortgage coaching programs that have hundreds and thousands of students that teach them to basically create a list of realtors, cold call them on Monday, ask them to go out to a coffee with you and talk about doing some business together, right? And I personally think that's the worst way to grow a business.
Right.
Not only because, people hate making the cold calls, which is why some of these programs, they teach you, just go hire a dialer or something. And it's like, your marketing plan sucks so bad that you have to hire somebody to do it for you, and it's just not a way that I want to be associated with growing and with people. So that's the first thing is I think that people should never cold call realtors. We all have networks, we all have friends and people that know other people. We all have value we can bring to the table. So it's like figuring out other ways to bring value to those realtors. And then through that value, they might want to work with you, right? Or you can figure out who you like and don't like. So for example, I'm a big proponent of hosting events, live events for realtors, and being able to get into a room. And I'm not talking about like a happy hour where you're just buying their drinks, but somewhere where you can actually bring them value. So teaching them a class or something like that, right? And actually bring them value. And then at the end of that, if you've got a room with 15 people inside the room, the law of averages would say that you're going to like 5 of them, you're going to be indifferent to 5 of them, and you're going to not like 5 of them,
Yep.
And so, but you've been able to figure that out in just 1 hour versus spending, if you do the old school cold calls for coffee, you would have to spend 1 hour probably with each one of those people to figure out who you like and don't like. So, if you just stop doing cold calls, start doing more events and get belly to belly with these realtors, or if you're in some other industry, same thing, right? Is like get belly to belly with your referral partners or the people that can grow your business, because that's what people aren't doing enough, right? They're like leaning on technology too much. Yeah. And at least in our industry with realtors and loan officers, it's still a very much face-to-face, belly-to-belly type of business. And if you're, if you have that business too, then you should be looking for that. So that'd be the first thing is like, at least for me, I see as the biggest issue is cold calls, man. That's a big challenge. Then the other big challenge for loan officers is talking in a way that regular people don't understand. So when you're immersed in an industry, right? Like we could sit on here and we could probably spit out some copywriting terms and talk about, jargon, talk about Gary Halbert or different copywriters that people would be like, who in the world are they talking about? Right. And so every industry has that. And sometimes you're like so immersed into it that you just can forget that more than 99% of people. And so a lot of loan officers, there'll be a mortgage update that comes out that says like, oh, the Fed is raising the interest rate 0.25%. And loan officers will just copy and paste that onto Facebook.
Right.
And when regular people will go read it, they'll have no idea what it says, So it's like, take that mortgage update and create a little video or something. Like,
explain
tell us in your own words. Use plain English. Hey, this is going up 0.25%. And like, if you own a home, here's why this matters to you. If you're thinking about buying a home in 2019, here's why this matters to you, and just make it in plain English, right? It's like, that's the 2 biggest thing is cold calls is wrecking people's reputations and is a terrible way to grow their business. And then when mortgage updates or things are coming out, they speak in jargon that regular people can't understand.
Yeah, that's a huge problem in every industry, I'd say, and something I encounter on a pretty much a daily basis with trying to correct people. It's like, that's why they teach you to talk in very simple terms or write in very simple terms when you're learning about copywriting, is you want to be able to communicate what it is you're trying to talk about. And that sort of curse of knowledge is, I think, what they call it.
Totally.
Yeah, when you're just talking in jargon speak. So it's fascinating. What other?
One place real quick. One place that jargon too, it comes into effect, or using like big words, is on Facebook ads, right? Like, I'll give you an example. Is the less syllable, at least in my experience with what I do, the less syllables you use on Facebook, the cheaper your leads are going to come. So like if you say like, say for example, instead of the word beautiful, if you say nice or big or whatever, right? Like you use a 1-syllable word instead of 3-syllable words, or whatever beautiful is. I think that's 3. It's just, that is an example of like, sometimes you just got to figure out these little nuances. I mean, that's not necessarily with the jargon, but it's like, even using just a smaller word.
Simple. Yeah,
just simplifying things is going to give you better results at the end.
That is awesome advice, and you really broke it down. Man, this has been a great interview. You're just kicking ass. Maybe if people want to get in touch with you, Nick, maybe they've liked what they've heard, they're getting some real value out of this, and they think, man, Nick is the guy I should contact because I got these problems he's laid out, and he's got the solutions. Where can they get a hold of you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Obviously, they can connect to me on Facebook, Nick Carpenter, or my Facebook is facebook.com/NillaNick, NILLANICK. This is my old rap name back in the day. Or obviously, you can go to legionofloanofficers.com. Has all the information there. If you click on the apply button, it'll take you to the page where it has our calendar to book a call with my team. And then also just has like a gazillion testimonials and videos and stuff from current members. So you can really see that what we're doing is super legit. I know that there's a lot of snake oil salesmen, in the space, particularly around the Facebook ads and stuff, because that's the easiest piece to learn. There's a lot of training programs out there, but there's only one Legion.
Such a good tip. I want to really thank you for coming on the show, Nick. You've been an extra good guest. I mean, you've really broke it down into easily actionable steps and sort of make it very simple so people can actually take real action on this. I just am overjoyed that you came on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thank you again for inviting me.
Not a problem, man. We'll do this again sometime, I'm sure. For everybody else, that's a wrap for another podcast. We'll be back again with another edition, hopefully with someone as insightful and funny and with a former rap name just like Nick Carpenter.
Awesome, man. Have a good one.